Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Welcome. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, R2C2H2, the artist, also known as Brother Ron. And this is We All Be Radio. We All Be is taking it black, not just back, but we taking it black. It's good to be back after 1 year and some months hiatus. Had a great show last week, and I said to myself, let's do it again. So we got a great barn burner for you today, a very controversial topic, some great guests. And also, we need your help to make it even greater. And this has been a very touchy topic, to say the least. My guest, he's a very wonderful person. I believe he's very wonderful because he starts a lot of conversation going. Like, I'm an artist, and I think any great art, whether you like it or not, starts conversations. And he's a true piece of work of art. His brother, A.L.L, Genie of the Southeast, founder and, spokesperson for War on the Horizon. A very interesting organization that says that there is a homosexual agenda to undermine the black community. So we're going to get into that very soon, shortly. Before we get into that, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Sister Margaret Block. Are you there, Sister Margaret?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome back. We're back on the air again. We've got to do our thing. I guess every Sunday from 3 to 5, 4 to 6 Eastern. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm like the brother A.L.L, Jr. I always say the ancestors woke me up this morning, so I'm blessed to be here. And so we're gonna get to our guest. Yes, this brother got a lot to say. A lot of people are very excited to hear what he got to say. Sometimes your haters could be your best friends and your admirers. So without further ado, we're gonna bring on the man himself, the man of the 2-hour segment, Brother A.L.L, Jr. of the Southeast. Are you there, brother?
I am here, brother. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm blessed and highly favored, sir. I mean, when I started doing this show, like last week, a lot of people responded to what you had to say, man. Very interesting stuff. Some of the people were saying, well, he got the facts, but we don't like how you present the facts. We don't like how you come off. It feels like you're too aggressive, or it's like you're too emotional, even though you had some good facts. How do you respond to that?
I would say, we become so punkified and so weak, being effeminized over the past, 20 years, that we have forgotten what true black manhood looks like. You saw the Black Panther Party come out. You saw brothers coming out, walking up on police officers with shotguns. Now, during the time when they did that, the people who were scared, they weren't in the movement, they didn't understand what a real organic black movement looked like. They saw that aggression and, oh, my God, you can't do that. Why are they doing it like that? They should go and beg the white folks and the police to stop killing brothers in the community, So it's okay that they feel that way. They're just not used to strong black manhood, but we're going to make people used to strong black manhood again. So they'll get used to seeing what strong, aggressive black men who are trying to save their community sound like, and eventually they'll see us in the street and see what we look like again.
Okay, awesome. I know I've been checking out your radio show and also your TV shows or lectures on WarOnTheHorizon.com. You have some pretty interesting things. I spend virtually hours and hours on your website and on your YouTube channel just listening to some of the things you have to say. And, even if people didn't agree with you, you make a damn good case for what you're talking about. So you're saying basically that there's a homosexual agenda to destroy the black race, correct? That's your premise?
Absolutely. There's a full agenda, a white agenda, to exterminate black people worldwide. But the main focus of that agenda today, the primary thing that they're focusing on, that they believe if they're successful in doing this, it essentially they win the full battle of exterminating our people, is the homosexual agenda. And they're putting an incredible amount of money and eggs in the basket of effeminizing and homosexualizing this gender and black people worldwide.
And so also, what are the means that they're doing this? I know I met you several weeks ago at the meeting called by the Honorable Cynthia McKinney, and you said that you visited Africa and that there's an agenda. Like, how are they doing it? What are the means that the quote-unquote powers that be are pushing the homosexual agenda? What are the ways they're doing it?
Well, let me do this. I can do a brief little history lesson so that I can just basically give people a premise. if one looks at homosexuality for most black people, for most black men, they like black women, so the concept of understanding homosexuality is not even interesting to them. Same thing with a black woman. She like her brothers. She's not even trying to understand what a female does. And we initially think that it's just a person that's just like us if they attract to the same gender. That's not true. One has to do the actual history to find out how was homosexuality introduced to African people. When we originally did it, I didn't even know that it wasn't something African. I just thought that there was just a few people around the world that was homosexual. It's always been that way. When we did the research, we found that the Europeans, the white race, historically has always culturally been what we would call homosexual and pedophilic. And that those two things cannot be separated because as part of European culture, we call it white sex. This is standard, normal European sexuality, to rape children, to be homosexual, and particularly for males to rape young boys. So now once we realized that, we said, well, how did this come to black people? Why is this in our community today? And what we found through research, not through our guessing or estimations, but actually the fundamental research where whites documented what they did to our people, we find that during the slave trade and during Arab invasion and European invasion into Africa, they had a systematic process of raping black men. In fact, in the South, they had what they call breeding farms in America. And they used to actually take black men and force them to rape young girls when they hit puberty. So that's where the incest came in, because many times, he'd do this for 15, 20 years, they would bring his daughter back into him. He would have to rape that young girl. Now he would have a baby by his daughter, which would be his daughter and his granddaughter at the same time. So, and it was a part of law. In other words, the law mandated under slavery that the black man rape his own women and children. If he didn't, he would be killed. If he got to the point where he was no longer fertile, they would cut his testicles off and penis off. This is all documented history. This went on for 250 years in this country. Cycles are forcing us to participate in this type of behavior. As we related to homosexuality, when you actually do the research, and it's ugly research, most people don't want to do it, but when you do it, what you find is that they had sex farms. And on these sex farms, of course, they had young black girls that were for sale. They had grown adult women that were for sale, but they also had little boys. And the little boys were the most expensive things on the plantation, where whites from around the world, a lot of times Europeans, whites from this country, would travel to the sex farm to purchase the sexual favors, basically prostitutes, these little black boys. And these little black boys, the age of 5, 7, 8, 12, would be trained in oral sex, anal sex, and all this freakishness. And these homosexuals from Europe and America would come and lots of times buy them. Some of the plantation owners that were very rich and were homosexually inclined had plantations, all little boys. They had the people out in the field doing the work, and the rest of them were little boys. And after they finished with the little boys and they got a certain age, they'd sell them off because they were no longer interested in them. These little boys ended up being the boys after slavery. They ended up in our communities as our uncles in our homes, as fathers, as just members of our community. The same thing with our sisters who had been through the same process and had been trained to give their children away for the purpose of sexual favors to individuals. 250 years of this. So what we have is once we get emancipated, black people start trying to build up our communities. In building up those communities, there was a quiet secret that we didn't want to talk about, where in our churches, the person in the choir and in the music is a homosexual. And they're a pedophile. Some of the preachers, homosexual and pedophile. And they have a history of molesting people in their family, but no one talks about it. And so most families are trying to keep it hidden. Other parts of the family, some of them move out of the deep south thinking that they're going to escape that behavior in the north and find out it's just as much of it, or not, even not as much of it, but as much of it is going up here in the north as well. And so we end up with two communities. One, a black community where black men and black women want to build healthy families, protect their children, and move forward as a race of people. And then this insidious part of our community, which is bad habits that have been passed on to us for decades. And so what happens is, as we move forward and we talk about this homosexual agenda, we don't tend to study our enslavement to understand what negative impacts we had to eradicate them. And it's hard to do because we're just basically trying to survive. White folks don't want to give you a job. If you create your own communities, they come and burn them down. We're so busy trying to make a living and exist, it's hard to go back and cut that cultural cancer out of our communities. So as we move into the 60s and 70s with that Black Power movement, these whites said, if they get another one of these things, where these black folks say, we're not going to talk about turning no cheeks no more, we're going to stand up and fight, and we're going to take our rights, and we might just take you down with us. When they saw that coming out of the 60s and 70s, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they said, okay, we got to find a permanent solution to black power because there are more of them around the world than there are us. And if the black people in America ever connect with the black people in Africa and Brazil and Europe and India and connect and form a unity of black, then what we're going to do and end up with is an African world revolution that's going to be successful. So what they have done, that they made the decision, what can we do to ensure the destruction of the African family? So they have a thing that they call eugenics. Eugenics is the process of genocide. It's the science of genocide. How do we kill off a race of people without just pulling the trigger for each one of them? So they've done a number of different things. Abortion was something that they came up with that they said, it looks ugly when we go kill black people, but if we prevent them from having babies to begin with, that'll be great. It was Margaret Sanger who actually really developed eugenics into what it is today, and that's why you see Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in the black communities all around the world, predominantly in black and Hispanic communities, but in black communities all around the world because it is a eugenics genocide process. But then in the 70s, it was Henry Kissinger, a true enemy of African people, a Zionist. He said, we need something better than abortion. He said, what if we, in addition to abortion, in addition to the drugs that we put in their community, in addition to all the other things we're doing in their community to destroy the black community, what if we get the men to want the men sexually and the women to want the women sexually? We have won the war. It's checkmate. Because we don't even have to worry about, see, with abortion, a woman can have 12 abortions and still have 3 children. So you're killing the population, but you're not decimating it completely. There's still potential for life. But what happens if we can convince them that men should have sex with the men and the women should have sex with the women? They won't even be participating in the process that would produce a child, much less having to abort that child. So that, since the late 70s, but particularly in the 90s, after the Million Man March, when Minister Farrakhan called those 2 million men to that square and 2 million showed up, they realized we have a problem. If this guy was serious, he could have pulled this trigger on us. They were lucky that he wasn't serious and that he didn't pull the trigger. But they said we can never let this happen again. So the intensifying of the homosexualization of African people after 95 became the primary platform on which Europeans start pushing on African people. So after 1995, you see what? The production of the Eddie Longs and these T.D. Jakes, these huge homosexual mega churches where these males just systematically run through our sons and destroy their lives. You start seeing every juvie that they make, we don't call them movies, we call them juvies because these Zionists, these small hats are behind it. Everyone that you see, they have these homosexual characters. They have black women fighting with black men. They have black women with each other sexually. You remember Set It Off? The Color Purple they started with, but then Set It Off. And they keep promoting this homosexuality and lesbianism very intensely. They forced all of these Uncle Tom, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, all of these Uncle Tom Mobutus in our race who are posing as leaders to take a platform to promote homosexuality. So now, no matter which direction you turn, if you're a black person and you just like the old-fashioned grandma and grandpa, mom and daddy, family reunion with all of us coming together and the children playing with each other and everybody having a good time, if you like that, you're under siege because you can't turn on the TV and avoid homosexuality. They'll play a homosexual commercial in your football game. Had the football players wearing pink socks. You can't avoid it. You can't go out and get on the bus because on the bus they got some advertisement about something homosexual. You can't go to your school and say, we're going to turn off the TV. We don't catch public transportation. We're going to drive our children to school. But when they get to school, they're going to get a book that says Heaven Has Two Mommies and Daddy's Roommate. And they're going to get benefits as black people whenever you say homosexuality is cool. But when you stand on the basic principle of Africanness, of being a black man and woman, and saying, no, I'm a civilized person, we may not be perfect. I mean, I know for one I ain't perfect. I got a lot of a lot of dirt in my background, but and one thing I know, the issue with me will be not do I like black women, but do I like them too much? And that's how most black men, that's the issue we would find. For most black women, under normal, healthy circumstances, the issue is not that she like black men, is that she's picking the right brother for the right reasons. What they're doing now is they're completely, in every way, shape, form imaginable. And let me say this last thing, and then I want to let you get back in here because I know you have some questions. You say, how's the agenda being worked? Give you an example. They put this homosexual named Barack Obama in office. I didn't stutter when I said that. I said they put this homosexual, Barack Obama, in office. And what they did now, two things he is doing on the African continent. There are only two things that he's doing. Killing black people through wars. I mean, literally on the ground, sitting down, supporting the murder of our people in Africa. And the second thing, threatening the entire nations. This is across the board in Africa. If you don't accept homosexuality, we will give you no money in aid. And further than that, we will charge you with human rights violations. Essentially, the threat is we will come in and invade your country and install homosexual leadership that will accept homosexuality. An example of a country is Malawi, where they held a $350 million ransom of U.S. aid over the head of the Malawian government and said, if you don't change your laws which outlaw homosexuality, then we will come into your country, we will not give you any aid, and we will make sure that your country is destroyed. And so they acquiesced, but they said this is going to destroy the culture of our country. They're doing it in Ghana now. They got they're putting in and they're financing individuals who are homosexual into high-ranking positions in Ghana. They're doing it in Senegal. They're doing it in, they're trying to do it with Uganda, but Uganda is standing strong, but they're facing significant challenges. One of the challenges, I went to Uganda, so I'm talking about what I know, on the ground, talking to people. These homosexuals came over and started these independent schools, all girls schools, all boys schools. And what these homosexuals do is, the black people, of course, if somebody comes to your country and says, we're going to give your children free, excellent education from the West, these brothers and sisters are like, this is great, thank you, we love these white folks so much, they're so good. Send their children to these schools, and then these lesbians and homosexuals train these children to believe that it's acceptable and give them all kind of videos showing homosexuality, and these children watch it and then emulate this stuff and then get involved in homosexual behavior. They've actually had children who come out now in Uganda and done interviews saying this is how they did it. They gave me a free computer and taught me these things, and they were so nice to me, and then they introduced me to this stuff, and I got involved in it. So they're talking about how the countries are being undermined. So Uganda said, you know what, these NGOs got to get out of our country because you're not here to help our country. You're here to destroy us culturally and decimate us. In America, how they doing it? They're taking our sons, running them through the prison systems. I mean, just running them like a manufacturing plant. Running them through there, they're getting raped, they're getting sexually abused, they're getting devastated, coming back out, confused about their sexuality. And then they got all of this homo promotion out there saying, come on in now with us. And so they give them the skinny jeans, they give them the gay hip-hop artists with the gay anti-female lyrics, calling them women bees and hoes and this anti-female thing. Then on top of that, they're involved in homosexuality, they give them the drugs and the alcohol, and then you have a death culture that's consuming black people. And the last thing I want to say that they're doing, this is the most insidious piece. Well, not the most insidious. This is the one that's relevant to where we are now for those who are out there who are Pan-Africanists, who may be community activists, who are working with the community. What they are doing now is that they have realized that if they want to break the black community on this, that the strongest community against homosexuality is not the church. The church has always had homosexuals in it. From the choir directors to the choir to the deacons to many times the ministers. It's always been there. But the Pan-Africanist community has been very intolerant of European culture, period, much less homosexual, pedophilic culture. It is no room for it in Pan-Africanism. So what they have said is that they are now financing black people that look like me and you who are homosexuals, giving them money, letting them start organizations, and now their push now is to say, we are Pan-Africanists, we are nationalists, we're just as black people who are not into this. So essentially, if they can crack this foundation, imagine the Black Panthers, Imagine the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad when it was strong. Imagine the UNIA under Marcus Garvey. Imagine Nat Turner's men. What they're saying is they can take the strongest, most non-compromising elements of our community, the people who fought for us, the Harriet Tubmans, the Henry Highland Garnetts, the warriors of the race, and infuse the homosexual through that group. They have crushed the race because we are the guardians of culture and the future of our race. We're the people who night and day, whether we get paid or not, no matter what the circumstances are, we're working our bones away and our fingers away to try to do whatever we can to help our black community in any way that we know how to do it. So it don't matter what's going on, that's what we do because we love to do it, because we don't know how to do anything else because we're in love with our race. If they can get the homosexuals here and replace us with homosexuals as a race of people, we're devastated. It's over, nothing left to fight for. And so those are some of the ways that they are using to, last thing I'll say this, I promise this will be the last one before I let you
go ahead, brother. It's your forum. Yes.
Yes, sir. But it's very important to understand when we're talking about this genocide. If you turn on the TV now, this is how they have it. When they're trying to kill us, they everything that it would take to produce a black child, they're pushing against us. So, very simply, it takes a black man and a black woman to come together to produce what we call a black child, the most precious thing on this planet. So anything that would do that, they go against and go the opposite direction. So a black man and a black woman coming together, what do they do on TV? Or what do they do in our community? They give you abortion clinics. What do they do on TV and in the society with politics? They push in homosexuality. But then also look what they do at targeting as black women. Not only do they promote lesbianism, but if it's not lesbianism, I'm telling you, watch this and you'll begin to see it. It's very, very contrived and obvious. They won't put a black woman with a black man in a healthy relationship on television. She's either single and complaining about being single, she's a lesbian, or she's with a white male. And so they create the idea in the minds of our young daughters that the same devil that kidnapped her race, raped her, murdered her, and killed her fathers and sons, and destroyed her culture and her way of life, that this is her proper mate. And through that cognitive conditioning, watching it over and over, they got some female now on TV supposed to be sleeping with a Peckerwood president, and that's the main thing. And then all our people watching it, what are they teaching our daughters? That this white devil, this murderer of her race, is her natural complement. So what are they doing? They're promoting integrated relationships, and then all you got to do is look out in the community and see, is it effective or is it not? Do you see black women who in the 1960s and 70s, if you'd have told them that they'd Peckerwood, they'd have laughed you out of the house. They'd have punched, they would have started fighting with somebody telling them that they'd a devil. We never had to worry about our women because they knew that they were too precious, they were too superior for a white male. Even when their brothers were down, they knew that that was their proper complement. But through this conditioning, through the destruction of black men, through the promotion of this filthy hip-hop that calls our women out of their names, through the sexual abuse that's going on in our community, through the creation of hatred for black manhood through their filming, they're creating a black woman today who hates strong black manhood, who fights against strong black male aggression, who is assisting unintentionally and intentionally sometimes in the interest of destroying her own race by saying that she'd rather be with a female or with a white male than with her natural complement, the black man. And then they have black men doing the same thing, calling our women bees and hoes. But then when you turn on any video with these same Negro rappers or other R&B artists, the only thing that looks appealing to them is a white female, or she's so light you think she's white. But if it's a real organic-looking black woman, you don't see her as anything but a whore in the video if she's in it at all. So giving brothers the idea that a quote-unquote red bone or white female is superior to his own woman, so he destroys the self-esteem of a black females, so now they have us fighting with one another while all the same time they're going into Africa, stealing the resources and perpetuating the killing and slaughter of African people worldwide. And what we are saying as a Pan-Africanist, as a black nationalist, as a Haitianist, as an actual activist, I'm saying it's not a debatable thing. It's not like we're saying, can homosexuals get into the movement? It's a war declaration. I'm saying it's not a debate. Whites are trying to destroy us by forcing us to accept filth and decadence, but they're putting a black face on it now. So now you got these black freaks who's, I mean, you just think about it. When an individual describes himself as a homosexual, you cannot remove the sexuality from him because that's all the homosexual is. It's a male who is so sick that he thinks his penis belongs in a male's anus or mouth. Now, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, then I'm glad, because that means you still got some sanity. If you don't feel uncomfortable when you hear that, maybe something wrong with you too. So I'm saying this is nothing but a sexual degenerate. They don't even have a platform because they don't even have an argument, because if you don't know as a black man, if you see that sister walking down and see them hips going down the street, and you don't know that God made that for you, you don't have a moral compass for me to even begin to talk to you. It's not a debate. It's a war, though, because what they're saying is we're going to be Pan-Africanists, which means they're obviously going to kill all the real Pan-Africans who are on guard for our race, because that's the only way they're going to get that. I mean, you can't walk in to people who are walking in the best that we can. We're walking in the footsteps of Marcus Garvey, of Nat Turner, of Harriet Tubman, of all the folks that, when any time they were living, all our folks were scared, and they pointed the finger at the devil and said, that's a white devil, I'm going to fight him. We want to be like them. We want to do what we can do to build institutions, schools in our community. We want to do stuff to raise our people up like our ancestors did. Ain't no homos going to come in here and change what it means to be an African. It's not a debate. It's a war. It's like you telling me you want to come rape my son. I'm not giving you a forum to debate you on that. You declare war on me. I ain't got nothing to say to you. This is much deeper than words. You now talking about some passionate things. That's my little boy. He's going to grow up to be strong, and he's going to love his people. He's going to fight for them. And you telling me you want to violate him? That's what a homosexual is, because essentially they're saying they are going to make sure that some son of Africa, that this freak is going to put his penis in some black boy's mouth or anus, and they're going to continue this stuff. And what I'm saying is, if you're an African at all, if you're black at all, you should have the basic moral compass to say, you know what, I don't want my daughter licking on no female. I want my daughter to have a husband and to have a child. Now, I might not be able to pick her husband, but as long as he's a decent black man, then we can work with that. Same thing with, I want my daughter to pick a black, nationalist, strong brother. But if she ends up picking a Negro, as long as he's still a man and he protects the family, I have to deal with that. I ain't going to like it, but he's still a brother, I can live with that. Now they're telling us they want my daughter with a female. That's just a war. It's not enough to talk about. It's just a beef. And now they're stepping. See, when they did it with the Negroes in the church, they did it with weak people. People that have decided they wanted to be pacifists. We're not pacifists. There's nothing passive about us. We're not pacifists. We don't believe in none of this nonviolent stuff. We believe in violence. We believe that violence has proven to get the best results for African people. Sometimes we end up in periods like the last 20 years where we're not organized well enough to fight the way we would like to. But we believe in the principles of violence when it's necessary. And it is definitely necessary to protect the backsides of our sons and the decency of our daughters. And that's where we got to be with this thing.
Okay, brother. I mean, you're saying so much. It's like talking to, when I talk to a lot of great, intellectuals and people like that, regardless of if people agree with your perspective, you are a researcher, because I know I spend hours, literally hours on your website and on your YouTube channel just listening and viewing what you have to offer. And, everything you have talked about, you can find documents, a paper trail. So, I mean, and people can interpret the data the way they want to interpret the data. But the truth remains, and you get out so many things that, about the sister, because I noticed the trend, too. Like, I look at Scandal, too. Let's show you talking about Scandal with Kerry Washington as the lead, Olivia Pope, the political fixer based on the real-life political fixer, the black woman named Judy Smith. Show was created by a black woman, Shonda Rhimes, who also created Grey's Anatomy. And we all know what happened to Isaiah Washington when he said, I guess, he can call one of his co-stars or workers a faggot or something like that. And we haven't heard from that brother since. So, I mean, these shows were created by black women, or a black woman named Shonda Rhimes. I don't know her relationships with black men. I don't know if she got issues with black men. But, even another show on NBC called Deception. Same thing, beautiful leading lady, Megan Good. She got a love interest with a white man, a rich playboy. Got a good, strong black man in the show, but he's marginalized and kind of like emasculated, really, by the whole thing. So I am concerned about the messages within the media. But also you talk about the black church, and you talk about black leaders, how really the homosexual agenda needs a black face to make it work, kind of like what's going on in the White House, need a black face to really push imperialism around the world, white supremacy. So my thing is, you get real deep, brother, because I know I had gotten messages and texts and calls from people saying, well, you had a lot of great gay black people like Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin that spoke up for our people and that pushed the agenda of black liberation. But from what I understand you, bro, you're saying these guys were the worst traders there were, correct? According to your lectures and speeches. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, when we started doing the paper trail and actually started doing the research and say, okay, let's take an objective look at the homosexuals in the black community to see if, okay, we know we don't agree with the behavior, but what have they done in relation to black freedom? Actually, again, this is one of those things we wouldn't really know until you start doing the investigation, and you find out that they're actually the worst Uncle Toms in our race. They're worse than the Mobutus, and I'll give you a good example. Let's start with Barrett Rustin. Barrett Rustin was really the spirit behind Martin Luther King Jr. And what I mean by that is people know Martin Luther King Jr. because Barrett Rustin made one decision that prevented him from being out on the forefront representing black people on behalf of whites. Essentially what happened was Barrett Rustin was an activist, a nonviolent, quote-unquote activist, a sadist, a really sadistic, salacious homo. I know this guy was an insidious homosexual. He was such a homosexual that in the organization he was part of, the whites, because the whites would send him around, and A.J. Muskie, and would send him around the country, and he would go speak on behalf of Greenpeace and, world peace and nonviolence or whatever. It was a white organization. When he went to these cities, he would take married white, and these are crackers now, white males. He would get with these married white males and turn them out so bad that they didn't want their wives anymore. And the mothers of these crackers would send letters to A.J. Muskie saying, don't send Barrett Rustin back to our town. He's turning our sons out, and they don't want their wives anymore. So I'm just giving you a background of this guy. He was the guy that the whites were going to put out there to be the quote-unquote black leader, but something happened. He was on his way for his second trip to Nigeria to help Azikiwe write the Nigerian Constitution, but he didn't get to go because he got caught at one of these conferences he went to. He met two young white males, they're like 18, 19, somewhere in there. He took these young crackers back to the car, and in the parking lot of his hotel, he's in there having a threesome with these crackers. The police caught them doing it, and he got the lewd vagrancy charge. Once that happened, everybody in the civil rights movement found out about his orgy with these two young white males, and he was no longer the person that could be, well, not person, it's a thing, that could be out on the front representing black people. So they needed someone else. So what happened is when the Montgomery bus boycott happened, and Martin Luther King, he was first talking nonviolence, but then when they bombed his house, King put them guns out, had them brothers out there with them shotguns guarding the house. They realized that Martin Luther King could be a dangerous guy. He might go and change his idea for nonviolence. He wasn't necessarily that committed to it, knowing the fact that he had guns in his house and brothers outside with shotguns. So they sent Bayard Rustin to Martin Luther King. And because he had this great name and everybody, respected him, that there was the Negroes inside of the movement, not the Pan-Africanist black movement, but the Negro movement, Martin Luther King welcomed them with open arms, took the guns away, started listening to his stuff about Mahatma Gandhi. It was Bayard Rustin who was going back and forth to India having sex with males and doing this Mahatma Gandhi stuff. People don't know Mahatma Gandhi was a homosexual. Had a homosexual lover in South Africa, some small hat Zionist that he was with. So there's a bunch of freaks. So he went over there. He comes back and gives King all of this nonviolent, this, that, and the other, and becomes King's main advisor, traveling around the country, staying in the same room with King. And this is the same guy that got caught in the back seat of a car with two white males. Him and King staying in hotels together around the country. That's why Adam Clayton Powell called King when he was in Brazil and said, listen, if you boycott this Democratic convention, I'm going to tell everybody about your love affair with your boyfriend, Barrett Rustin. King backed out of that, pushed himself away from Rustin for a moment. What is my point here? My point here is that when the entire time that Barrett Rustin was in control of the movements of Martin Luther King Jr., whenever there was real organic black leadership, like Robert F. Williams, who was the whole reason that the whites grabbed on to Martin Luther King, because they wanted him to reduce the movement that was being created by Robert F. Williams in Monroe, North Carolina. These were the brothers that had the guns. He did a book called Negroes with Guns. Y'all can read that book and see what we're talking about. He organized the people against the Klan And Robert F. Williams said point blank, we will not allow any more rape of black women in Monroe. The next cracker that rapes a black woman, we gonna hang him. And they was protecting the community. The rapes went from a large number to zero. The Klan attacks went to zero. Everything was going well. And our people start saying, you know what, this nonviolent stuff is not doing it. We need to do like them. So then all of a sudden, the Deacons of Defense popped up. All of a sudden, the Black Panther Party popped up. And so they used Martin Luther King against Robert F. Williams and the Black Power movement to say that it's wrong for you as a black man to protect your black woman. You should pray to God and ask God to do it or ask the white folks to do it. So he was not organically created by black people, Martin Luther King. He was created by whites through Baird Rustin for the purpose of keeping black people from fighting and standing up and doing for ourselves and being independent communities separate from the whites, having our own economies. So they used them to collapse the self-help movement. And when King decided that he got close to people like Kwame Ture, some of these other brothers and sisters that were more militant, King started to realize he had gotten demanned or emasculized, if you will, realized that what he was doing wasn't working and began to start considering perhaps there's a better way to do things. When that happened, then they killed him. And we talk about James Baldwin. People don't know the story about James Baldwin. All they know is the clips that the white folks put out there where Baldwin is used to represent the interests of black people. This is the part they don't know. How did Baldwin even get out there? You got the typical behavior of the homosexual. I want people to hear this because this is the typical way they do things. Mm-hmm. He was a nobody. He was a writer. He was in France. Richard Wright was in France. Richard Wright was fighting against racism and was saying that you got to leave America because it's too racist and writing real negative things about America. And the world was seeing these things. So he saw James Baldwin and said, this is a really talented guy. Let me help him get on. And used all of his political connections to get James Baldwin some popularity. Then James Baldwin decided, I know what I can do to get big. He wrote this scathing criticism of Richard Wright. And in the literary world, it was like crazy because, you know, Richard Wright was the man on top. Here comes this black person shattering him because the whites couldn't do it because once they did it, that just made people like Richard Wright even more. But they got somebody black to do it. So he used that as leverage to now come back to America, and now he can go on tour as this big guy because the white folks loved him because he did this criticism of Richard Wright. Then he wrote a book about his some black love affair with a white fag, two fags in love with each other. Then he wrote a book about called Little Man, I think it is, about a grown man having sex with a little boy, as if it was cool. He wrote this book. Then they put him on television. He's going around the country as if he's advocating for black rights and all this stuff. But the movement is getting beyond him, and it's becoming very, very militant. And black people are using Nat Turner, you know, the warrior, the god of our people that went out here and killed these crackers to get us some freedom. This is a real black man. And we revered Nat Turner. Everybody, even Uncle Tom's, everybody respects Nat Turner because they know he wasn't talking. He was about his business. Let me free my people. I'm killing everything in sight that's white that ain't right, and that's everybody until we get free. There was nothing but a man in Nat Turner. Well, it was James Baldwin that went to William Styron and said, look here, white boy. They was lovers. He went and stayed with him doing his little freak thing with William Styron. And while they, I guess, bucketing one another at night or whatever they do, what fags do, he says, look, Nat Turner is the icon of the movement right now. You want to slow this black power thing down, why don't you do this? Why don't you write a book, give it the same name as the actual Confessions of Nat Turner, and make Nat Turner a homosexual? And when people go to learn about the story of Nat Turner, they don't know the difference between the real confession and your book. They'll get your book. And when these young people read it, either two things will happen. Either they'll read the book, see that Nat Turner was a fag, and be turned off to this movement because if he's the icon of black power, and that means he was gay, then we don't want to be gay. We're not interested in black power. Or they'll attach being gay with being black power, and we can make homosexuality accepted among this strongest group who believes in real manhood and aggression and protection of the people, which prevents fags from getting in. So either way we do it, this book is going to help to destroy and curb the strong, aggressive manhood in the black race. Now, how much of a race traitor is this homo got to be? And he would take a man who gave his life so that we could be free. I mean, literally, not like talking. He killed whites, gave up his privileged position on the plantation. He was the only black person down in Southampton County that could walk anywhere he wanted to, anytime he wanted to. He was the most privileged. He was more privileged than the poor whites in Virginia. He gave all of that. He had escaped slavery and come to the North and changed his mind because he said God told him, you got work to do back down South. Stop running away. Go free your people. Went back, forgot his own freedom, and launched a liberation war for our survival. And then some Negro, in order to push an agenda, would take his legacy and say he was a homosexual. How vicious can you be? If that ancestor wanted to be about being a fag, he'd have done that himself. Why would you do that to a person who gave their life hoping that one day we will be able to be here to protect our families, not be on no plantation with nobody with no whip on our back and keeping us enslaved? How could you do that to a person, man? How could you? This is the insidious nature of the homo. They don't think about anything that's sacred because basically the man's penis and the woman's vagina together, that's a sacred thing because it produces life. I'm not saying that we always look at it sacred, but I'm saying there's something sacred about the fact that it can produce life. If you can't get that one right, obviously nothing in the world is sacred to you because you would take the freedom fighters and try to turn them into something you wanted to be, not because they were that, but because you want to make more little boys with you. This is the kind of thing these homos have done. And if you name a homo in this movement, and I'll start showing you, I'll give you one more. This one for free. There's another one that's for credit.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This is Luther Vandross. We love Brother Luther Vandross music. Everybody loves Luther. We know we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Luther Vandross is homosexual. But now, we would say, well, yeah, but he wasn't pushing an agenda. Well, let's look at it. I remember this, because I can look at Luther and tell he was a homosexual, but I would never say it because I love his music too much.
Right.
Went home, my mother had a Luther Vandross album where he made the remakes of all the classics. He made Killing Me Softly. I'm sitting there listening to the song, and like Roberta Flack, Lauryn Hill make it as Killing Me Softly with his song. I'll Be Sure makes it Killing Me Softly with her song. Luther Vandross makes the song Killing Me Softly with his song. This is a man singing to a dude. So I'm asking myself, I'm saying maybe I'm going too far with this. Maybe he's just singing it like because I'm a dude, I'm a man. I'm like, nah, not Luther, nah. So I can look and see David. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I went up on the internet and looked, and sure enough, it said, his people was telling him he shouldn't do it, but he said he's going to do it. It's his right, it's his song, he wants to do it. So I was like, dang, okay, so he wants to really push this agenda so much that his folks are telling him, nah, the reason the women love you, the reason your concerts are sold out is because the science in the women coming to hear you is that, no, they can't actually have you, but they can imagine being with this man who can sing these beautiful songs to a woman. Lo and behold, he's singing these songs to a dude. But now he wants to, okay, if you want to do that, that's what's your mind, but don't nobody know that. So if it's not an agenda, I guess you keep it to yourself. But no, you're going to do it. You're going to push it. You're going to put it out there so everybody can hear it because you're motivated by something different that does not help black people. And when I'm saying invariably, when you look at these homos, these freaks, these people who have been destroyed in our community, I'm not blaming them for what happened to them to lead them to that, but once you get to the point where you are actively involved in this by your own free will, you're no longer a victim. Now you're perpetuating something that's killing our people, is unacceptable, and you don't have the right to kill my child. You don't have that right. I'm not going to give you no rights, man. I'm not giving you a right. Anybody decides they want to bend over for another dude, then you get rights? No. Whatever rights you got as a black person, you got them right. You don't get no special rights when you start doing something bad. If you sell dope in my community, I don't give you no special rights. How is it all of a sudden if you're a man and you don't want a woman, you bend over, now you got special rights? You ain't got no rights because of your behavior. It's filthy and against what's in our best interest. You ain't got no rights. Your rights is to be black, and when you don't act black, then we correct you. And then if you don't like the correction, then we got to fight there. Somebody got to win, somebody got to lose. It's not negotiation, and you can't make no children gay. I'm not going to do it.
Well,
I got to be careful wherever I go. Look at my woman. Every time we walk out here, we got to be careful wherever we go because we are surrounded by sick victims of racism and white supremacy, homosexuals. Little boys with skinny jeans, boys with lipsticks and purses, little girls kissing each other in public. There's nowhere we can go and just be comfortable without some some sick freakazoids coming in there and making me be put in a situation where now I got to start trying to figure out how I'm explaining to my children that our people are sick into this madness, but it's not acceptable for them.
Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, so many, it's like, I'm getting the pattern, the theme is this, that this homosexual agenda cannot happen without black cooperation at the leadership level or by some of our icons. Because you think about Luther Vandross, I'm thinking about Liberace. How, he was flaming, as they call it, flaming, meaning, but women still like him because they thought, okay, he might be, he's just an entertainer, he's doing this for show, but he had a lot of women admirers. Just like Luther Vandross had a lot of women admirers. But also what I'm getting from you is that without black cooperation, this agenda cannot succeed, especially at the leadership level, because you talked about how Marcus Garvey was really done in by black leadership in America. It could not be done by the government alone. Or even you look at Margaret Sanger, you brought her up, Dr. King, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, and some of our beloved icons of our community were advocates for Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger was a well-known racist and a white supremacist.
And what you're saying, really, and I'm glad you said it, brother, because you're saying it very, very, in a very crystallized, clear, concise manner. Because our people naturally, I mean, without with all the, I'm not talking about with the propaganda and all the I'm saying, it's a natural basis. Your average black person is resistant to any idea. We don't even like seeing brothers and sisters date outside the race under naturals. On the normal circle, we naturally are inclined to resist homosexuality. So because it's really at the base of our personality, because we're the first people on the planet, and this is culture that's been passed down to us for so long we can't even remember, that they cannot just tell us something and get us to accept it. The only way they can really get us to accept it without creating a bigger war for themselves, because the more you push something on people that they don't like, the more they resist. Mm-hmm. What they got to do is get people that we look at and think are legitimate and get them to push this behavior on us and push this misbehavior on us so that then they begin to let our guard down. So, for instance, when you look at the Pan-Africanist community or the nationalist community, the last bastion of people who are completely against this, but you see it starting to break down. 2005, the Nation of Islam, Minister Farrakhan, they call the Millions More March. They invite a homosexual to come, Cleo Monago, and speak on behalf of the same gender-loving movement in front of black people who have not signed up and said we agree that this person belongs in our community or that this behavior belongs in our community. But when an organization with that history and reputation of strong defense of blackness does that, they are lending themselves to supporting white supremacy by opening the door to a door that's closed for behavior that is closed to the best interests of our community. When you look at people like A.L.L, when you look at Jesse Jackson, if you remember A.L. in 2004 when he was running for office, and this is before black people was talking about same-sex marriage. We didn't even think it was a possibility. He was on the forefront talking about his agenda. He never said nothing about black people. If you watch that, I remember that campaign. I was watching it in 2004. I said, what is going on with this guy? All he was talking about was the rights for gays to get married. This was before the whites was talking about it. So I'm like, why is A.L. Sharpton out on the forefront? He's supposed to be out here fighting against police brutality. So his whole agenda on the forefront with the Democratic Party is to promote homosexuality. What's going on with this guy? And I started saying, wow. I started looking at Jesse Jackson. After they came out with the thing with him with the homosexual, said he sued him because he was asking him to do something or another. All of a sudden, Jesse out on the forefront supporting gay marriage. You got the little punk. I don't know if he's a punk, but chump. He's definitely a race trader. Julian Bond, a weak Negro man that turned against his movement. One point in the movement, he was doing something for it, but now he's just complete race traders. Now he's out there on the forefront supporting the NAACP and all these organizations, telling our people that that's an agenda. We got black joblessness. We have rape and sexual abuse going on in our community. We have black-on-black crime, brothers murdering each other in Chicago, largely due to the fact they don't have an economy and jobs and all kind of stuff. They got police murdering black people, shooting them. Oscar Grant just rolled up on a brother, just shoot him for no reason, just he down on the ground with his hands behind like this, murder him. And they out here completely ignoring us and what's relevant to black people in the black community and talking about some gay rights. What are they? They're part of the agenda to turn our people out. I give the last example. Even Minister Farrakhan, very recently, in the beginning of this year, he comes out and does an interview and starts talking about Tyler Perry. Now, if there's ever been an image that is negative for black people, Tyler Perry is it. He is the most effeminized, foolish, clownish image you can possibly have. Most of us know those black women, the big black woman, the grandmother, who was the matriarch of that family. My grandma was one of those. I'm offended every time I see this freak. You cannot pretend to be my grandmother. Get a grandmother to show what our grandmothers did for us and how they were. Don't you get no Negro putting on no wig, acting like a clown and fool to represent really the most sacred people in our family. My grandma was one of my most favorite people that I ever knew in my life, man. That woman loved me unconditionally, and I love my grandmother. He's not supposed to be doing that. How can Minister Farrakhan sit down and tell people that Tyler Perry is a spiritual giant? What we have is collaborators with the white agenda who are intentionally trying to strip the masculinity, strip the sanity out of our people, strip the fight out of our people, let our guard down, and get into this madness even deeper than we are doing. They're doing it on purpose, and if they didn't do it, the whites couldn't be successful. So to your point, what I'm really getting at, it's time for us to have new leadership. Even if we don't announce who the leaders are, the leaders got to have at least one thing they firm on, that black men should be with black women. Meaning we don't want no interracial stuff. If you're interracial, get out. You're not no Pan-Africanist or no nationalist. You can't be interracially involved and then talk about you trying to help us. We want people that's loyal to us, and the best way we know that you're loyal to us is look at your partner. And your partner needs to be of the complementary gender, meaning if you're a man, your complement should be a black woman. If you're a black woman, your complement should be a black man. Those are basic standards before we even talk about your philosophy. Do you have a basic moral foundation, not being perfect? I'd rather deal with a brother who likes sisters too much and don't know how to calm himself down. At least we can work on him. Then deal with a guy that thinks that he's supposed to have a man in his backside. That's not going to get it.
Yeah, I know people want to respond and whatnot. People don't understand, like, my thing about We All Be is I'm not saying that, your viewpoint represents all my viewpoints, but I think it's very important that you have a platform to speak where you have to speak. I believe that this conversation that we're having, this discussion, these subjects that we're dealing with, need to become mainstream. The mainstream needs to become radicalized, because radical means not bad, it means the root. If we want to solve a problem or address an issue and confront an issue, we got to, get to the root of the issue and dissect it. And, when you talked about the feminization of Nat Turner, that's what they're doing with Brother Malcolm X right now as we speak.
Yes.
I interviewed Dr. Manny Marable 5-6 years ago for an hour. I talked to Malcolm X's nephew. I talked to folks that work with Brother Malcolm X. I talked to other people about it. But I think it's strange that a man, even Mr. Farrakhan is complicit in this too. And he endorsed Manny Marable's book. He sat down with Manny Marable, I believe, for 9 or 10 hours talking about Malcolm and the nation. And also he's basically throwing dirt on the legacy of Khalid Muhammad as well, regardless of how you feel about that. But I just think it's necessary to point out at every juncture in this journey, in this wilderness known as North America, that our leadership had either led us or they betrayed us. Because one begins to wonder, if black folks knew that MLK's brain, for the lack of a better term, like Bush's brain, was barrier-rusting, and they knew his history, his personal history, and there's no quote-unquote agenda, how many black folks would have been inclined to follow Dr. King? Because I got to say this about Dr. King. Dr. King, at the end of his life, said we're integrated into a burning house. His last speech in Memphis, where I live, was about black nationalism, black economics, self-help. And before he could turn that corner, they shot him on a balcony in front of room 306. So I just want to say that about Dr. King. But we're going to get to the lines of people are jumping at the bit and saying it doesn't seem fair that he can rant for an hour if people can only respond in sound bites. Well, I promised you the first hour, brother, and I'm glad that you delivered. But also before we go, I want to get into this point, which I think is very fascinating, because, next week will be Easter. And I listen to some of your radio shows. The people go to waronthehorizon.com. He said Jesus must go. You did this interesting take on religion. You basically called Jesus a homosexual in the fact. And I just wanted to get your point. Like, what do you mean by, like, why did you think of Jesus being a homosexual?
And I'm going to try to do this quickly because I know we want to get to the phone line.
Right.
When we did the research of the history of that, what we find is the Jesus story is a story that's stolen from Africa. And without getting into the whole story, in our story, it was Asar, who was a man, Aset, who was a woman, and Haru, which was a child. When the Europeans stole our African story and they created their Trinity, they had a problem because Aset was a female. Originally, in the Christian story, the Mary, Mother of God, was very, very prominent. But because European culture is homosexual, that's why you see the Roman Catholic priests, the Roman Catholics. That's why the priest can't have sex with a female, can only have sex with little boys. They had a problem with the concept of the woman being equal to the man in conception and having a Trinity. So eventually what they did was they removed the woman. So instead of having the God, the God man, God's wife, and then the immaculately conceived child, they removed the woman and created this magical male figure called the Holy Ghost so they could have a all-male Trinity. God, Son, and Holy Ghost, all three males that's going to create creation, which is only can be considered homosexual because three men cannot produce creation anywhere. So then when we looked at it and looked at how did they get the Jesus Christ character that they took from Asar and Haru, what we see is they used homosexuals to actually, when they painted them, Michelangelo painted his homosexual uncle who was a prisoner in jail. He painted his homosexual uncle, and that's the image we get of Jesus when we say Jesus, who he was really a homosexual. So what I'm saying is we're not saying that God is a homosexual. We're saying that when we accept religion from the European, who is a homosexual, and they give us an image that most of our people look at, you say, who is that? They say, that's Jesus, that's God. You can look at him now with your new eyes and look at him and say, okay, I have to admit, if I saw this guy walking down the street right now, I'd say, this dude is a punk. And those are not the kind of images we as African people use for the Creator prior to our enslavement.
Wow. So I just want to get there because I know people need to go to warontheharacking.com. You got so much great information. Well, I say information that you give a viewpoint and you provide, resources and things that people can look up. And people can look up all this information on the Internet. Just Google it up. And I think what, we should be about is promoting critical thinking. Willful ignorance is counter-revolutionary. Don't be willfully ignorant when your people's salvation and your salvation and your future is at stake. So please look up this information, regardless, because I got, emails and messages and calls, people saying, well, he says facts, but his stuff is not connecting. He's so passionate. He's too aggressive. All this stuff. But I think it's funny when people hear what they want to hear, all that other stuff is a non-issue.
If I can say something, for people that really want to see it and get it in a chronological order to understand it, if you go to waronthehorizon.com and go to the tab that says Effeminization and watch the Effeminization of the Black Male Part 1, I guarantee you and I promise you, you'll see it. You'll see it. It won't be me. You'll see. You'll hear it from them, the homosexuals themselves, and then we'll put it together in such a way that once you watch it, you'll understand why we're so passionate and why we feel that we have the need to defend our community against this assault. And if you like that one, then Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4 are there as well. You can watch them in their entirety and get a sense of understanding and predators in our midst, which is about sexual abuse in the black community and how we can protect our children against it. You can watch them for free in their entirety, and you can understand why we do the things that we do.
Okay, I'm posting this in the chat, the direct link to those videos. So I watched half of the videos, and you may make a very interesting argument or a statement. I mean, your lectures are very interesting, and they provide a lot of interesting information that people should really consider and make their own decisions on. So we're going to go to the phone lines and get other people's point of view. I'm going to go to my co-host, Sister Margaret, get her points if she have any questions or thoughts to share on this topic. Sister Margaret, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I just had something to share because the brother, what he's talking about, I've witnessed it. Dr. Aaron Henry, who was he was in the Civil Rights Movement, and he helped form the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. But anyway, now they're going around saying that he was a homosexual and he was going with Governor Ross Barnett.
Oh, my God, yes. Mm-hmm.
Who's the biggest racist that you ever, anyway. But that's what they're doing now to destroy his image among the black people. But most black people don't know who he is. But, I mean, how can you say that you don't have any proof of that? And then I was at Mississippi Valley State University over there with Dr. Ronald Walters, who's a great historian.
Yes.
Do you know those young people did not come out to see Ron? But then, and I was over there on the podium once. They didn't pay me. They still owe me $400, and that was like 6 or 7 years ago.
So that's
but
with
they
interest now. $400 with interest.
Yeah. Well, they owe me way more than that.
That's right.
But then here they come paying this dude that wrote some book called On the Down Low $40,000 to come over there and speak to the students, and the auditorium was packed that time. They'd rather hear somebody talk about some shit. I mean,
no,
about.
You all right?
But they'd rather hear you talk about some homosexuality and men that's on the download than to hear something really constructive by, you know, what Charles Ogletree or Ron Walters had to say. And then, well, now I know my minister gets up. They preach against same-sex marriage. And they've gone a step beyond same-sex marriage. And now when they want to adopt children, children should not be raised in no homosexual household, be it lesbian or gay man. I just think that's deplorable, because children need a two-gender family. What you look like going around telling people you got two mamas or two daddies?
Well, Sister Margaret, I want to say, to give a little bit of background on Sister Margaret. Sister Margaret is a civil rights legend in her own right. She comes from a family of freedom fighters. Her brother was the late, great Sam Block, the field secretary of northern Mississippi for SNCC. So she comes from a background of freedom fighters. She also had her share of Mobutus and Uncle Toms in her family as well, agents working for the wrong side of history. And so she comes from a background where she worked with Dr. Kings and the Stokeleys and people like that. I mean, she's a true freedom fighter. So she's talking from that generation. And after hearing this brother talk about some of the icons of our people, and what do you feel about that, Sister Margaret? Some of the things you were saying about Byron Rustin and Dr. King and James Baldwin, Jimmy Baldwin, what they call him?
I knew Jimmy was gay. James Baldwin was gay, and Byron Rustin. They didn't make it no secret. But I.
What do you think about that? Okay.
What I think about it? Well, they were gay.
In terms of, did they have an agenda to undermine the black movement? I'm saying, did they have? You feel like when he's saying that they had an agenda to undermine the black liberation movement?
I don't feel like Dr. Rustin did, but I'm not sure James Baldwin.
Okay.
I believe he did. But I don't.
I want to point out. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Sister Mark. Go ahead.
I said I don't think Byron Rustin did. He was just gay, just like Langston Hughes. He's nonetheless a very, very good writer.
Okay, I just want to make this point too. James Baldwin. I remember reading Huey Newton's Revolutionary Suicide because Brother Irritated Jr., you talked about how James Baldwin basically, Picasso said, in order to be great, I'm paraphrasing Picasso, you got to kill your father. In order to be great, you got to kill your father. You're the person that you admire the most, that you want to emulate. You got to kill him. Maybe not physically, but spiritually, artistically, whatever. So Eldridge Cleaver did the same thing with Soul on Ice. He basically, emasculated, I guess, if you could emasculate James Baldwin. But I know Huey Newton talked about the fact that they was at a party in honor of James Baldwin. And Eldridge Cleaver and James Baldwin shared a tongue kiss. And this is like Revolutionary Suicide. Huey Newton talked about it. So, I mean,
well, you should take a closer look at Huey, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. So we're going to get to the phone line. People that jump at the bit, they're like, let us talk. So I don't thank you, Sister Margaret, for sharing that. I'm going to move along.
Okay.
But now, you stay. I got you unmuted, so you feel free to chime in whenever, so you co-host. We got area code 225. You're on the air. Area code 225.
All right, cool. Thanks for giving me some time. I just wanted to talk about a few main points.
What's your name, sir? Who is this?
My name's A.L.L. I'm A.L.L.
A.L.
I want to talk about homosexuality in relation to pedophilia and rape, and then I want to talk about homosexuality as it relates to the life-affirming traditions of Africa, which is, a big point with this whole debate. So first we need to make a firm and clear distinction between consensual homosexual behavior and coerced sexual acts. People arguing against homosexuality frequently and purposely conflate rape and pedophilia with relations between consenting adults. It's an intellectually dishonest argument that knowingly plays upon people's legitimate fear of sexual predators and confusion surrounding the facts of human psychology and sexuality. Individuals, particularly black people in war-torn regions where sexual violence is commonly used against men, women, and children, as well as black people in the Americas who were victims of systematic rape, as a way to terrorize populations, are particularly vulnerable to this vile form of propaganda. In the face of this deception, the point must be made that individuals who identify as homosexual are no more likely to molest children or commit rape than their heterosexual counterparts. And this is supported by the American Psychological Association, as well as several independent psychological studies, and I can post citations and a video with several citations for you after this. Moreover, discussions of healthy human sexuality shouldn't even come into play when we're dealing with issues of pedophilia, child molestation, and rape, as these are deviations from healthy sexual expression, not representations of it. So first, we got to focus on the tragedy of rape, and I could inundate you with horrifying statistics, like the fact that a woman in South Africa is more likely to be raped by a man than to be educated. 40% of women in South Africa will be raped in their lifetime. In 2009, 40% of female rape victims were under 18, and 15% were under the age of 12. Female victims of male heterosexual rape. Or I could bring up the fact that across the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2007, between 1.7 and 1.8 million women reported being raped within their lifetime, over 400,000 of those women having been raped in the preceding 12 months. That's 4 women raped every 5 minutes. This number doesn't include the 3 million plus women who report being sexually abused by intimate partners, i.e. marital rape. In the conflict-ridden eastern part, 30% of women reported being raped. In the West, in America, 17% of women have been the victims of attempted or completed rape, and that's just reported numbers. That's 17.7 million people. 90% of rape victims are women who are victimized by men. For those that are curious about the stats of male rape, it's 3.5% in South Africa, 3% in the USA, and 22% in Eastern Congo. But I'm not going to go through a laundry list of global sexual violence against either men or women, because that's not what the discussion is about. If I use the same tactics and faulty reasoning as African politicians like Uganda's David Bahati or like this Genie guy, I could argue that the prevalence of male-female rape necessitates an African rejection of heterosexuality. In order to protect females, especially young girls, we must criminalize all sex between males and females. But you see, that would be nonsensical, wouldn't it? It's not an accurate or helpful way to think about male-female relations. And just as heterosexuality is not viewed or discussed as a gateway or logical precursor to heterosexual rape, despite the epidemic rates of heterosexual rape throughout the world, neither can we define or discuss homosexuality in the same breath that we talk about homosexual rape. Healthy sexuality embodies love. Rape is never loving. Healthy sexuality entails mutual pleasure, and rape is about manipulation, subjugation, and humiliation. Healthy sexuality demands a recognition and appreciation of your partner's humanity. Rape, at its very core, is the violent negation of your victim's humanity through the subversion of his or her agency. Confusing homosexuality with rape is a grave insult to the homosexual and an injustice to the survivor of legitimate sexual violence. And to speak specifically about the video that this brother put out about rape and us being raped in our past and women being raped specifically during slavery. Speaking of survivors, in your video, Mr. Genie, there was an inordinate amount of time devoted to the rape of women and the role of men as protectors. First of all, why is protection solely the domain of men? What about female agency, resistance, and their ability to protect themselves and each other? Then, rather than focusing on the survivors of rape, you talked extensively about the psychological effects of sexual abuse on the male partners or relatives of the victim. You, just like the European before you, are objectifying the woman by insisting that the black male's perceived violation of his manhood is more important than the actual violation of the woman's humanity. Rather than arguing against homosexuality, you are endorsing a European proprietary, meaning having to do with ownership, view of male and female relations, in which, quote-unquote, our women are seen as things to be owned, raped, saved, bought, sold, protected, watched, and touched, but never as subjects who act in their own interests. You posit femininity as inherently negative and equate it with passivity. What should a woman think when she hears this? You say that we're an effeminized race. Okay, well, what would a masculinized race look like? I'm going to skip over a whole discussion of pedophilia because I want to get to my last point about African life-affirming traditions and how life-affirming traditions relate to homosexuality. So there's two big misconceptions, and they're interrelated. First of all, homosexuality is not common. Americans tend to grossly overestimate the number of homosexuals around. You often hear anti-homosexual black leaders talking about black male homosexuality being the reason that there are no good men for black women, et cetera, et cetera. In a 2002 Gallup poll, and you can look this up, people on average believe that at least every fifth person was gay. So they believe that about 22% of the population was gay. The reality is that only 3 to 5% of the population report being homosexual to any degree, and perhaps only 2% are exclusively homosexual. And the last point, and this is very crucial, very fundamental to the whole argument, homosexuality is not a danger to the black family or the future of the black race or life-affirming African traditions. To elaborate on that point, conservative black leaders have a tendency to perpetuate the false idea that gay men are a threat to the black population, or a threat to black population growth, and antithetical to the life-affirming traditions of Africa. In order to deconstruct this, let's start by looking at some numbers. Between 1990 and 2000, the white population of the United States increased by 5.5%. In the following decade, it increased by 5.4%. Over the same time periods, the black population increased by 15% and 12%, respectively. Yes, that represents a slight decrease. However, it's only the fifth smallest decrease since 1800. And as a percentage of the total U.S. population, the black population has been increasing since the 1930s. In Africa, a continent with a positive growth rate despite the presence of homosexuals, the single greatest threat to health and longevity is the heterosexual transmission of the HIV virus. Focusing on homosexuals is little more than a diversion so that politicians and community leaders don't have to take responsibility for the real threats to African societies, things like structural readjustment programs. If you don't know what that is, go and look it up and you'll figure it out. And the last point... I want to make as far as reproduction and life-affirming is concerned.
Brother I.O., Brother I.O., wait a minute. I know you're the brother that did the video. I want to thank you for doing that. But the show has got about 40 more minutes, and we got so many calls on the air.
It's my last point. I can wrap it up in 2 minutes.
No, you already said your last point 3 or 4 times. But I put the post to the video. I want to thank you first and foremost for putting all this. Is 25 minutes of interest and perspective, like what you just talked about for the last 5 minutes. People can go to that link. I'll make sure I promote that among my network.
Well, I'm just saying, the brother's saying the same things he said in his video. I just want to put it out there.
Wait a minute. You were calling into the show. He was the featured guest, and I'm just trying to be kind, but there's so many people on the air, and everybody want to have a say, but we ain't going to solve this problem in one day. We're not going to solve it. I want to thank you once again, brother, and feel free to email me your information, but I want to promote what you're saying, and I want to thank you for making that powerful video. I appreciate you.
I just encourage people to look up the Dagani in Africa, the Dogon, the Igbo women who marry each other.
Okay, we got it out there, bro. We're going to get out. You got all that in your video. We appreciate it. We love you, man, brother. I'm serious. I'm going to promote what you're saying. Okay, brother, you want to answer any of that? I know, because you got a lot of folks that want to get in on you. I just want to make sure I be, like, fair and balanced to people, because people complain about I'm giving you too much time and whatnot. But, brother, you was a featured guest. And your time is very important. But what do you want to respond to enough that the brother Io said?
Let me just be clear. This irritated Jeannie, because I don't want to be confused with that salacious.
Oh, yeah, bro, I'm sorry. I just got irritated. I'm sorry.
No, just in this particular case, since this freak called up, I don't want you to say, that somebody think that I'm this guy. Let me first say
go ahead.
One, it makes sense what he said to him because he's a fag. So it would make sense that a homosexual would call up and say to a group of black people, why should the men protect the women? If he would take that grease out of his buttocks with sliding penises in it and clean his gun and actually be a man to protect his family, he would understand the beauty of being a black man and knowing that the reason that our women are willing to cook for us and iron our clothes, take care of our children and love us is because when we are at our best, it is our responsibility that we are proud to take, that we will kill anything that tries to harm our women and our children. Of course, he doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand the basic fundamental tenets of manhood, which is you're supposed to be attracted to the women. So then when he goes on to talk about all of this ridiculous stuff about objectifying women, there's nothing more objectifying to women than a man who God made to love them, to overlook her in her beauty, in her blackness, in her organic, this is the first woman on planet Earth, and then to look over at some dude, and brothers, I love y'all and respect y'all, but I'm a dude too. You ain't looking like, to me, like she looking at me. I mean, you just a dude, hey, what's up, brother, let's shake hands, play some ball, but when I go home, I'm not going home with you, man. I'm going home to that queen, and I'm going to protect her. So one of the things we got to understand, again, with these homosexuals, they're very dishonest in the very foundational issue. And what I'd like to do to prove my point, I want to ask, since we only have one sister on the line, instead of letting me do this, I want to ask my sister.
Sister Margaret, okay.
Yeah, Sister Margaret. Do you have a problem with a black man who believes it's his responsibility to protect black women and black children?
I have no problem. That is their responsibility. He didn't say anything about white men protecting their women and putting them up on a pedestal. I mean, what is his problem besides being gay? I know a lot of fine gay people that don't have that perspective. I don't. He's very, I don't want to say the word, but he needs to talk further to some black women. He's starting with his mother and his grandmother, because is he talking about them too, that they shouldn't be protected? That's who we should go have a serious conversation with.
So we got some more people that want to get in on this. We might have some females. I know we got some brothers on here, but might have some more, females. I'm going to get to the lines. This is hot. I mean, it's a very passionate. People think we're going to solve this problem in 2 hours. This is impossible. We got to talk about this problem. We got to, face the fact that there's a schism in our community concerning these issues of sexuality and black liberation. And like to go to an earlier point, Brother Jeannie, black power to me becomes real when police brutality ceases to exist. When police brutality ceases to exist, black unity and black power is real. So let's go to patiently waiting call. There's so many people on the line. Area code 586. You got something to say? Welcome to We All Be Radio.
Peace. Thank you so much for taking my call.
What's your name?
My name is Lady Shabazz.
Oh, it's the honorable lady. Is this the same Lady Shabazz that wrote that wonderful book about black women relationships? How to I'm gonna let you do your thing. I'm sorry, Lady Shabazz from Detroit.
Guilty as charged. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just wanted to call in after hearing that last caller. I thought he was utterly ridiculous in everything that he said, and that's the problem with homosexuality is that they are not willing to stand up. They don't see a need to stand up and defend their women, and that's why I really like and appreciate the Irritated Genie so much. I can say, he was saying a lot of things that were completely not factual, and I guess from his perspective they made sense. But as a survivor of molestation and rape, I would have to say that when I see a black man standing up, willing to take a strong position and willing to defend women, it makes me feel good. That's the kind of men I want to be surrounded by. Those are the men that I think are worth our time and should be admired by us, not somebody who doesn't even think that it's necessary to do that. To me, that is outrageous. It's just despicable, and I have no respect for a man like that.
Okay, anybody want to say anything else to that? Anybody want to add to that?
Well, I agree with the sister because he was just despicable is the word that I needed. Because and he was appalling. And I don't understand how a black man, I don't care if you gay or whatever you are, can sit up and defend. I mean, why wouldn't you defend women? Like I said, he has a mother. Would he not defend her?
And if I can just say one thing, the whites, even though they hate their own females, with just the false accusation that a black man wanted to rape or hurt a white female, they will lynch a black man. And what we found with these freakish homos, just like the one that called just now, it's not that he is not going to go out there and fight for black women if a white male would do something to a black woman or a black male, anybody. He's going the extra step saying, we shouldn't do it. Let the black women defend themselves. Because we have a beautiful history of sisters like the Kandakes, Queen Nzingas, and Harriet Tubman stepping in the gap when black men had fallen and weren't strong enough to fight for the race, doesn't mean that we should surrender our responsibility as men and now say, since y'all have done such a great job in standing in when we weren't doing our job, now we're not going to do it. If anything, as payment for our women for holding the race up in our absence, we should be more dedicated to coming together, showing love and loyalty to our women, and getting out on this battlefield like any other men would do for their race and being proud and productive and fighting for our people.
I would say in defense of the brother A.L.L, the brother A.L.L that spoke about, he wasn't necessarily saying that women don't deserve the right to be protected. He said don't take the power for them, I guess, to have a certain type of self-determination. Like don't devalue our women by thinking that they're helpless because they're very much empowered on their own. That's what I feel. Okay, go ahead.
Can I say something to that?
Yes.
There's nothing more demoralizing to a woman than to know that her man is not capable or not willing to protect her. That is the most demoralizing thing in the world. I can defend myself. I can protect myself, but I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to unless my man dies trying to do that. So that whole perspective, regardless of what kind of spin he wants to put on it, was, again, appalling to me. And that's everything that is wrong with our community now. So I know that Brother Jeannie probably wants to say some things, but I do just want to say that is one of the reasons why so many women really love the Irritated Genie and are really dedicated to the Irritated Genie, because he is actually saying what we want. A homosexual cannot speak for me and what I need or what I would want from a man. He can't tell me what is degrading and what is not degrading. He is degrading.
Okay. Sister Margaret, anything else to add before I move on?
No, I want to hear from somebody else.
Okay, we're going to move. Got a lot of people to hear from. Let's move on. Yeah, I still got y'all. Y'all can feel free to talk because we need to make this a true dialogue and people can talk. And we'll move on. Got a lot of people calling. Area code 863, you on the air? You want to say anything? Welcome to We All Be Radio. 863.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? How you doing? What's your name?
I'm Connor. What's up? How you doing?
I couldn't hear you. What did you say your name was?
My name's Connor. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in. You got anything to add to this discussion or questions or anything?
Yeah. First, before I say anything, this probably won't matter any much, but I'm a 19-year-old white guy, and
okay. Yeah, go ahead. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You can't help who you are. Go ahead.
All right, but to address homosexuals, I think it's just weird that they have, I don't know if it's urges or something. I think it's just odd that they, don't protect other people, or, it's just weird. Like, it doesn't seem natural. Even if you don't believe in a God, the main things in evolution are like reproducing, and 2 men or 2 women can't do that. So I don't, this just seems weird. It seems very unnatural to me, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Exactly what you're saying. It is unnatural.
Yeah. Well, that's all I wanted to really bring up. I don't have much to say. Thanks for taking my call, man. Or guys.
No problem, man. Thanks for listening, man. You too. God bless, man. So what y'all got to say about that? Anybody else want to chime in what the brother said? The white brother said?
Yeah, man. This is one of the most demoralizing moments in my life. We actually have to have the devil call up and tell black people that 2 men shouldn't sodomize each other. And this is how sad of a day this is. We are black people. The strongest community on planet Earth that's fighting and resisting homosexuality is African people. And we got to have the individuals who brought this to the planet and have pushed this on our ancestors and on us today and trying to push it on the African continent and trying to push it in the black community today. The individuals that are trying to push the enslavers. He said he's 19 years old, he's white. This is the devil himself. These are the enemies that have killed our people for decades and centuries. He got to call up for us to have some clarity and understand that their misbehavior culturally and sexually is unnatural. But he is. I don't want to say it. I don't want to give credit to the devil, but I got to say it. On this particular one, the 19-year-old white male devil that just called up, he did tell the truth. He's correct. It is unnatural, particularly for an African to participate in this kind of sick misbehavior, and we should not. If the devil can say that his own culture is sadistic and immature and unnatural, we should not have any tolerance for anybody in our community trying to tell the devil. That's the devil. The devil's supposed to be pushing the degeneracy. We shouldn't have nobody in our community trying to stand that misbehavior up.
Okay, that's a good point. Anybody else want to add to that? I guess everybody's in most agreement with that. Okay, we're going to move on. Got a lot of callers to address. Got area code 601. Welcome to We All Be Radio. You want to say anything?
Yes.
Oh, welcome. What's your name, ma'am?
Gloria.
Hey, Gloria.
Sister Gloria, welcome.
Yes, I am so proud of you guys. I don't know how y'all got hooked up, but I am glad of that. And I also have to thank Sister Margaret Block for calling me and reminding me of the program today. The next time that a faggot cracker get on there talking all that garbage, y'all need to just cut him off because this is our program. Okay?
Okay,
I can't hear none.
Well, I would say for my part, I'm just a platform, and everybody, we should be able to agree to disagree and still be respectful of each other.
That's true too, but he was just wasting the time with garbage that most of the listeners don't want to hear. Anyway, because we all know that he was a fag, and that's what he was promoting. It's unnatural, and they are, what you say, emphasizing African males. And that's all I got to say. Yeah. Keep up the good work.
We love you, Sister Gloria, for listening.
I love you more.
Yes, we love y'all, manly. We appreciate y'all. So what y'all got to say to what the Sister Gloria had to say about what's going on right now today in the discussion?
Well, what I feel like people have a right, no matter what color you are, what gender you are, to express themselves. If we stop letting people express themselves, then we will never know what's going on. And it's good to get other people's opinion, no matter how vehemently you disagree with it. And I really disagreed with that brother, but he had every right in the world to express himself and show the whole world how stupid he really is. That's his constitutional right.
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
It's hard to come behind that because I actually appreciate the spirit in which the sister said it. But if I had to vote, even though I like what the sister just said, I would have to vote with my other sister in the sense, not on your program, but like, I don't ever want to hear, well, I do want to hear it, but I want to go out and listen to the devil and get the information. I don't want him opening my forums. And then secondly, I think the sister misunderstood. That was actually a black homosexual. She actually thought that white sex offender was a white male. That was actually a black-skinned individual. I don't think she knew that. But at any rate, her point being made, I'm kind of in agreement with her to the degree. This is our position. Since we are African people, we have the right to define who and what we are. As far as I'm concerned, I want to work towards the day when the population of pedophiles and homosexuals with black skin on planet Earth is zero. So that means I really don't think that they have any rights except to stop participating in that misbehavior on behalf of our people, because every time one of these freaks does that, generally speaking, they're sodomizing and destroying the lives of another black male or female on this planet. They're destroying our race in the context of who our race are, and they're helping whites destroy our people. So on the one hand, I do agree that we have the rights to free speech and to disagree with one another, but when someone decides they want to be that much of a degenerate, I want to take their rights away from them. I don't disagree with the sister, though, that we do need to know what they're thinking so that we can defend ourselves. But at the same time, I don't think that a homosexual or a pedophile has any rights that I'm bound to respect.
I wanted to say, I know the brother A.L.L, the brother A.L.L, that wanted to address the issue to get a video. he's very concerned. So, like he said in the chat room, I just want to say what he's saying because he's saying that homosexuality, if I could just keep up with all this stuff going on, so many emotions, no much. He said homosexuality is documented in pretty much every vertebrate species on the planet. And then he said something to the point, so I get called stupid and a fag, but no one has to address my facts. And I said, do you believe what they are saying about you? If you don't, then don't accept it. Well, he also told me this, you should inform your guest that he slandered me. That's a federal offense. I'm not a sex offender. It's recorded. I plan on taking legal action. I said, okay. And he said, I don't care what they have to say about me. I want them to address my points. I'm assuming that he's doing some type of blackmail or something, or extortion. I don't know what it is. I mean,
if he's threatening me, he's barking up the wrong damn tree. Tell him to bring it on.
Right. I mean, freedom of expression. This is kind of, it shouldn't have to go this way. I gave him 5 minutes on the show.
No, but I want to get back to what the sister was saying, and this is what she's saying. So
okay.
This is what we're talking about. This is why you really can't let no fags have no. Let's go back to what we were talking about before. We were talking about James Baldwin and talking about Barry Wrestling. On the surface, when you see what they're doing, like you look at this video, you think that he's really a decent person. But when you really get down to it, even if he disagree with our position, am I somebody that you can listen to and say that this black man should be in court for some crackers? And am I really the black man who you would want to see in the European system? The one that says we need to defend our people. But see, a fag don't care. See, the fag, y'all trying to see how these fags are. Their whole objective is to destroy black manhood. So the minute real black manhood comes up, here comes this salacious homo. He gets on here. You give him, look, I didn't cut him off once. You gave him so much time. I was like, well, I guess he gets the second hour and I get the first one. Nobody cut him off. You eventually had to let him finish. And then everybody gave their opinion. But now that the sisters are saying, no, brother, you do need to protect your women. Now that I'm calling them all kind of names, I mean, that's what I do. Either he's a fag, I'm going to call him one. Now all of a sudden he's talking about going to the devil, going to the white folks. Even the devil, look, I call the devil the devil. The cracker didn't even call back and send you nothing, and I want to take this guy to court. Even the devil knows what they've done to us, so he knows he's guilty, so he even take them, but not the salacious homo. They want to kill black manhood because they want free access to our son's backside. Go call your crackers, boy. The crackers already watching me. I ain't worried about no crackers. You just a fag, and we're going to get y'all out of our community. How about that?
Okay, so we're going to move on to some more. Anybody want to add anything to that before we move on? Lady Shabazz or Sister Margaret?
Oh, I just don't call people the F word because I would kill him if he ever called me a nigger.
Okay,
I try to show respect to everybody.
It's recorded. We recorded you, Sister Margaret.
It's recorded. I wish the hell he would try to sue me. But you tell him, Ron, I'm not a nice person.
No, you ain't nothing to be played with. You're not nothing to be played with. No, you're not nothing. Okay, we're going to move on. I think we got the brother Ron with us. Are you there? You want to say anything, Brother Ron?
Yeah, man, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Brother Ron with us. This is the son of the great civil rights photographer Ernest with us. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Brother Ron. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You got anything you want to add?
Good. Man, that's an interesting dialogue, very interesting dialogue. I like to basically say that we appreciate your boldness and then your ability to bring dialogue to an issue, and I appreciate the astuteness of your guest. And it's one of the issues in this community. And I won't be long. I've been enjoying hearing some of the things that had happened in the past. I was aware of some, and some I was not. And but of course, my preference is a sister, an African sister, all day long, 24/7, brother.
Yeah.
And I realized my manhood early. And I can remember, in the second grade, I had a desire for my second grade teacher, and I knew who I was. But as I grew up, and I realized that, you can be affected as you grow up without the proper protection of a mother and father. You can be influenced and approached in all kind of ways, and your manhood could be taken by not having the right guidance and direction. So, I just want to add that, I think the human race is going through its times of the truth, and what needs to be done, and the manhood has to continue to take its stage. And we all know that I never heard of a homosexual dog or cat or deer or hippopotamus. I never heard of a homosexual, a tree or plant, And I know if these things were to happen, or the same thing happened in the human race in 25 to 30 years, we would be extinct.
That's right.
So we have to defend our existence, and I just want to continue to listen, and I appreciate the dialogue.
Oh, thank you, Brother Ron. We love you, man, and keep up the great work you're doing in the community as well, brother.
I want to continue to listen,
okay, we got you.
All right, carry on.
All right, thank you, man. Anybody want to add to what Brother Rome said? Okay. Well, we're gonna move on.
I would just say real quickly that I agree with the brother 100%, and I really appreciate. Let me just say this: for all of the elders that are calling in, I really want to say something to you. I've been real disappointed with our elders' positions on this stuff, and I've gotten to the point, almost honestly, to just be honest, of losing all hope in any elders. I said because we've been fighting this battle on the forefront for about 15 years, and the elders have let us down miserably. It's only a few that have stood with us. So it warms my heart to no end for the sister on the line there. I like that mean spirit. That's a real black woman right there. I like that brother that called. They call them respectful, but at the same time, they not letting nobody back them down. They stay in their position. And for the young people, I'm not that young, but for us to hear our elders gives us so much in it, and our sisters, it means so much to us that we're going to fight this thing, and we're going to make y'all proud.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to move on. We got some more callers that have been patiently waiting. Area code 757, you on the area. Welcome to We All Be Radio. Got anything to add?
Hello?
Hello. Welcome to We All Be Radio. What's your name, ma'am?
Hi. Briggs. Mayshawn Briggs.
All right, thanks for calling in. Appreciate you. You want to add anything to the conversation? Any questions or comments for our guest?
I just had a question/comment type of thing.
Okay.
What do you all have to say about these various books and so-called studies that proclaim that homosexuality was a ancient tribal type of ritual practice that a boy, and in some texts they say women went through, I guess boys and girls went through to become men and women. I see that they have taken, I'm not saying that there weren't any type of rituals that mark boyhood to manhood, but I see how they have kind of faggotized this whole ritual and flipped the whole thing around. Now, we know that there was a practice in Greece, in Rome, and probably in almost any of these other Anglo countries, but as far as these studies that show that it happened in Africa, when I try to go back and try to see who wrote these books or how they documented it, it almost always leads to a dead end. So what do you all think about that, or how should we go about trying to research that? If we know for a fact that it never happened, how do we go about researching that or dispelling that? Because that's one thing right now that they're really trying to use, because they know at this time that a lot of people, a lot of black people, especially with a black president, they're really into the Africanization, re-Africanization movement, but they go and try to say, hey, look, y'all been doing this for a while, this is just a part of, your blackness, so don't try to trip now, y'all had been doing this, but they never make any distinction about this happening once Europeans came in contact with those societies. They just say it happened, but they never say at which point. So can I get some clarification on that?
I will absolutely do that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sister. Excellent question. In the 1990s, when before I understood the information, before I did all the research, I never forget, my aunt called me. Well, no, it was right after I did the research. And first did the research and found that homosexuality came from European culture. I didn't know that when I went to do the research. I never forget when I told and broke it down to my aunt Matter of fact, let me say it the correct way it happened. Let me be honest. When I was in college, I was visiting my aunt, and my argument was that people must be born gay because nobody would be crazy enough to choose to do that knowing how people are going to feel about them. So they must have just been born that way. And she said she believes it's something social that happens to people that turns them gay. I'm a real strong debater, and I argued that in college. When I got out, started doing this, we started doing some research on sexual abuse. We ran into the history of Europeans and the pedophilia and the homosexuality. It freaked me out. I was like, whoa, I was dead wrong. So then I came back, and we had to do lectures, and I was speaking to people, and I was telling them that this comes from Europe and that there was no homosexuality in Africa. Now, she didn't believe that. She just thought it was something social. Then she called me on the phone and said, I just watched a show on History Channel, and it was called Sex Around the World or something like that. And she said they went all around the world talking about sexuality, and they showed homosexuality in all these places. And they said, in Africa, we've researched for the whole continent, and there's no trace of ancient homosexuality in any of the cultures. And this was the Europeans now. This is about 96, 97 time frame, somewhere in there. So, of course, doing this work, I began to monitor it, which is how we found out there was an agenda. Because I remember it was like 1997 or 1998, they came out with something called Gay and Lavender or something, and they said it was Lucy, a lesbian. It started off with, I don't know what Lucy is lesbian. They were talking about the original 3 million year old bones they counted the African woman in Africa. So I said, whoa. I said, they're starting to try to make an argument that homosexuality existed in Africa. I said, whoa. Because she had just told me a year or so before that the whites had said on their statement that there's no trace of it. From 1998 or 99, 1997, somewhere in there, till now, I have watched as Europeans have gotten black homos from the continent, white sex offenders. We call it white sex because it's sexuality that comes from Europe, whites. White sex offenders from the continent, and they get them to produce things. There's no basis upon what they're doing it. They know that black people from America don't know people from a particular culture, so they'll make up a story. Good example, Malidoma Some. He's a homosexual who talks about how he was raped repeatedly in his group by the Catholic boys at the Catholic preschool when he was growing up. So now he's a confused individual. Uncle Tom, the wife gives him some money. When he gets some money to put this stuff out there, the homosexuals finance him. Now he puts out a book talking about the gatekeepers, how homosexuals in ancient African culture were looked at as the most spiritual people in the community. But when people I know went to that particular group he said it came from, they said that's the most ridiculous thing they ever heard of in their life. As you travel to the African continent, what you find is that black people on the continent are fighting it across the board in every country. But what's happening is Europeans are making up makeshift scholarship, meaning there's no basis on what they write. They create an imaginary story. And what happens is we don't understand the basic scientific principle. It's impossible to prove something didn't exist. You can only prove what does exist. So they create a real confusion because they make this story up, and then we're trying to figure out how to disprove it. What we do is the reverse. The way we handle it is we show, first of all, we make a definitive statement. We say homosexuality did not exist in Africa prior to European Arab invasion. That's safe because there's no history of homosexuality prior to Arab or European invasion in Africa. That's the first thing. Then what we prove is that which can be proven. This is European culture. We can show you through Europeans documenting their history that until they came into Africa, this is from the Europeans themselves, they did not have a concept in all of Europe of a man being in love with a woman. The only concept that you can find in writing, in statues, in any European ancient history of being, quote-unquote, in love is grown men raping little boys. They called it pederasty. Even Plato, in his symposium, which was when the Europeans start talking about philosophy, they start getting the science and the engineering and the information from African people, but then they start saying, well, this is our concept of the world. In his symposium, he says, pederasty, which is a grown man raping a little boy, that alone is capable of satisfying a man's highest and noblest aspirations. And the love between man and woman, when spoken of at all, is altogether inferior. It is a purely physical impulse whose sole object is the procreation of life. In other words, for Europeans, the only thing that you could call being in love with a grown male going around to what they call the gymnasium, picking up a little white male, taking him back to the woods and sodomizing him for 2 months, and then taking him back to the gymnasium. That was a cultural practice of Europe, which extended through Rome, which extended through all of the European nations, Germany, France, England. To this very day, they're involved in that, to the point where the Catholic Church, again, the priest, he can't be with a woman, but they're known for, you had a pope that just had to step down because he's a sodomite. So, and then one more thing I want to say, and this is something that we have to understand. So basically what we do is we show people that the whites are pedophiles and homosexuals by their nature. That defeats the argument that it has any origins in Africa. And then we show people, here's how whites put it on black people, which we can demonstrate through so many different means to show people. That clears up any confusion about if it's African at all. And once we do that, people are clear. I want to make one point, though, that that degenerate called up here and talking that nonsense he was talking. One thing he said, and it's very important for us to understand, notice the basis that he stood on. The American Psychological Association even says that. Well, what we got to understand about the American Psychological Association and all these associations of health that the Europeans create, these are the same associations that in 1970 took homosexuality out of the DSM, which describes diseases and mental illness, and said homosexuality is no longer an illness. It's healthy when you're a homosexual. This is the same institution that's saying it's healthy for homosexuals to adopt black children. This is the same institution that's on its way this March. They're supposed to be coming out with a new publication that now is supposed to say another disease is not a disease. Now, for the first time, they're supposed to be this year removing pedophilia from being a disease to say that it's a normality in human, it's just a different sexual practice. So the Europeans are going deep back into their sexual degeneracy, being pushed by the Zionists, the white so-called Jews, the Israelis, the white so-called Jews who are running the whole operation and the brains of the white supremacist operation, and now they're trying to take all of us in that direction. So when you hear a black person, it's different than what we do. We use the European stuff to show you that they are proving who they are. But when they use it as the basis for establishing what's right with black people, you know you have a person that has been completely consumed by white interests and white ideology, which is definitively and completely against the interests of black people.
Well, Brother Gene, I know we got about 5 more minutes live. I just want to get some more people in. Please, if y'all got a question or comment, make it short. Because we run out of time, I want to make sure I get everybody in. Area code 310, you on the air? Area code 310, we all be radio. You have anything to say? 310? You want to say anything? Okay, 310. Quiet. We move on. We'll keep it quick. Area code 661. Welcome to We All Be. You have anything to add to the conversation? 661. Yes, you have anything to add? Yes. We move on. You got to come quick. And we got, I know who this brother is. I'm thinking I know who this brother is. I think it is a brother I know. Dr. Issa, you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, man, welcome, man. Thanks for being patient. There's so many people online, man. It's Dr. Jahi.
Hey, I'll be real quick. It's a powerful,
no, go ahead.
powerful show. And Brother Ayo has already touched on the point that I was going to say.
Oh, Brother Genie. Come on, Brother Genie. Not the, Brother Genie.
Yeah, Brother Genie.
He's
already touched on the point that I was going to say, that most of these homosexuals who are citing these sources of homosexuality in ancient Africa, they're looking at European sources. And I can tell you firsthand that the Dogari people in Burkina Faso and northern Ghana, that homosexuality within the culture is an abomination. How do I know? Because my wife comes from that culture. I know that this is an abomination. And I know that what Malodoma Selme is putting in, is saying that are lies. So I'll leave it at that. But you guys are doing a great job, and I'll get off.
But Dr. Yes, we definitely want to have you back on the show. I mean, you're another strong, hard-fighting Pan-African warrior. We need more brothers like you. And I want to thank you for listening, man. It's an honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And then we're going to move on. We got a call. I think I know, maybe I don't know who this person, maybe I do know who this person is. From Indianapolis, you there? Welcome to We All Be. You have anything to say?
Yes, brother. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, sir? Thanks. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
Jomo.
Jomo, thanks. Welcome to the show. You got anything to add to the discussion?
I do, just real briefly. I'm a professor of science. I teach science teachers. And there are a lot of misconceptions scientifically that the homosexuals put out to try to justify their disposition. One thing they often say is that they're born this way. And I'm going to point to you two scientific principles which work against that idea. First of all, homosexuality is a behavior, and you cannot be born destined to engage in a behavior. You might have a predisposition towards a certain behavior, but there's no gene that's going to determine that you are going to engage in a certain type of behavior. If that was the case, then we could say that thieves are born that way, that murderers are born that way, but that's not the case. Number two, evolution determines that we are going to replicate genes that are more likely to replicate themselves. So if you have a gene that's going to make you not want to reproduce, then eventually that gene is going to die out. And it won't take very long for that gene to die out. And I've heard Irritated Genie talk about this in one of his lectures, but there was a time, and I think it was Rome or Greece, where the homosexuality was so rampant, they had to pass laws forcing men to actually have sex with women so that their population could continue, because their population started to decrease. And I'll be quiet and let Jeannie finish up from there.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in and listening.
I'll just say real quickly, and we can get back to the lines. The brother's absolutely correct. In fact, what they did in Rome was they decided they would give a stipend to a man and to a family if a man would stay in a house with a woman to be a family. So that's how egregious the homosexuality and pedophilia was, that they would use government-sponsored payment just to induce a man to stay with a woman, where in Africa, a brother ain't want to leave the woman. You have to give him some money to come out and do some work because he want to be there with his queen and his family.
I just want to bring up the Valentine and Claudius. Claudius was a gay emperor, whatever he was over there. Mm-hmm. That's why he killed Valentine and cut his heart out, because Valentine was getting the young people married, and he was a priest. And Claudius found out about it and had Valentine's heart cut out. Mm-hmm. Because Claudius wanted to save the young men for himself.
Mm.
Okay, that's some deep stuff. So we got a lot of research to do. This is a very smart show, like somebody said in the chat room. I agree, a lot of research, because it's making you think about some things to reconsider. I got one more call I'm going to take. Private phone call, undisclosed number. You want to say anything? We all be radio. I guess that's it. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating in this very important, powerful dialogue. And Brother Irritated Genie, can you send us home? Can you close it out for us?
Yeah, I just want to say I really thank the African family for calling in today. I really love the elders and the sisters who stood up strong on the battlefield today. Not that they knew or agreed with everything we said, but they were able to, they had the courage to come out here and say, hey, yesterday we were fighting lynchings. I wasn't scared to fight no lynchers. Today we fighting homosexuals. And you brothers and sisters today ain't afraid to fight no homosexuals. Whoever we have to fight to keep our people going and to keep our community strong, all of the Africans, no matter how old or young, male or female, adult or child, we got to come together and be willing to fight all the forces that want to remove us from this planet. And if we do a really good job, maybe Amen will bless us that we can remove those forces from this planet. And with that said, I want to thank brothers and sisters for listening. I want to thank you, brother, for allowing us to come to the radio, not putting any barriers on me, but what I can say, I'm dealing with some degenerates, so I turned it up a little bit when I'm talking to these freaks because they have a lot of aggression, so I'm a little more aggressive with them than I normally am, but you gave us the room to do that and let everybody speak their mind, brother. Keep doing a great job you're doing, putting the word out to the community about serious dialogue. Love you all, and we will see you on the battlefield.
Thank you. And what can we access more of your information, like follow you and check you out and some of the stuff y'all doing? What's the best way to stay in touch?
Yes, you can go to waronthehorizon.com. That's our website. If you want to get our emails telling you about the things that are going on, whether it's events that we're doing, whether it's legislation that's being passed that's doing harm or that's good for black people, you can sign up. It's called the War on the Horizon Word. It's on the right-hand sidebar menu. When you go in there, you put your email address in there. We put you on the email. You check it in a couple of days to make sure it didn't go into your junk mail. Once you put it in your inbox, you'll get something, at least 3 or 4 emails from us a week, keeping you posted on the work that we're doing. We also have videos all throughout YouTube to explain the different things that are affecting black people and how we can organize against those things. We also have a radio program a radio station. Matter of fact, we're having a live program tonight, I believe, 7 to 9 p.m., a little later. You go to warnerhorizon.com, you go to the right-hand sidebar menu, and it says Listen Live, Live 365. And 365 days a year, we have programming, some pre-recorded and some live programs similar to the brothers that you can call in and keep in touch with us and things that are going on. So I think I said that we also on Facebook, warnerhorizon.com. You can keep in touch with us there and post things there, and Irritated Genie on Facebook as well.
I want to thank you once again, brother.
I'm sorry. We also have.
Go ahead.
If you want any of our DVDs, we have 5 of them available for free on YouTube, so you can see the whole things for free. Feminization of the Black Male. You can go to the Feminization tab, and we also have a store where we send out documentation that's very well documented about issues facing Black people. Everything from the race giants, the people who fought for our freedom, to the homosexualization of the Black community, to entertainment, how they use entertainment to destroy our people, and how, the way it works. So all of these different things, you can go to our store at warnerhorizon.com. We can send you an email with it, or you can get it sent through you to the mail. So we ask that you support and share the information. We have books for children on Pan-Africanism and various other things at our store. So please check that out, and that's how you can stay in touch with Warner Horizon.
Well, Brother Jenny, I want to thank you for all the work you're doing on behalf of your perspective and point of view. Like I said before, we all can agree to disagree, but don't knock the hustle, because, brother, you putting out your information and your perspective. I think other people got to work twice as hard or whatever to do their thing, because we all got something to say. But as we have learned this past week with the cancellation of the Michael Basin show, with Brother Roland Martin getting kicked off of CNN, with the cancellation of Bear Smith and Warren Ballantyne, whatever they can give you, they can also take away from you. But whatever you can build and manifest on your own and with your people, they cannot take without your permission. So I want to thank everybody for calling in and participating in this important dialogue. And like I always say, the best is yet to come. And we love you all mainly on We All Be Radio. Thanks, everybody, for participating.
Hey, bye.
God bless.
All right.